TD Ryan Unleashed is brought to you by Scott Zimet, your State Farm Insurance agent in DeKalb. Call 815-748-3101 or stop by at 2587 Sycamore Road, Suite D in DeKalb. Like a good neighbor, Scott Zimet and State Farm are there. Pizza Villa, pizza, pasta, sandwiches, and more at 824 West Lincoln Highway in DeKalb. Don't forget Kids Eat for Free on Thursday. For delivery or pickup, go to pizzavilla.com or call 815-758-8116. Elder Care Services of DeKalb. Safe, secure, and supported, helping you stay in home where you want to be. Call 815-758-6550 or stop in at 1701 East Lincoln Highway in DeKalb or on the web at ecsdekalb.org. My Insurance Guy in Sycamore covers Medicare to auto care and everything in between. Stop by at 204 South Main Street in Sycamore. Call 815-899-0950 or online at myinsuranceguy.com. Welcome into TD Ryan Unleash, podcast number 61. Honored to have privilege with us, Joanne Pickering. Joanne Pickering is a candidate for District 3 in the DeKalb County Board on the Democratic side. Joanne, welcome to the airways. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
We kind of figured out we kind of knew each other from the past. You were at WLBK at one point, and
yes.
I probably interviewed back in the day there.
Yes.
Yes. The big question to ask people now is why run for office now? Because, again, there's so much negativism in running and the mudslinging. Of course, there's always been mudslinging, but now it seemed to be taken to a new level with the electronic media. We were just talking about that off the air. But what are your thoughts? Why run now?
Well, I've always been a person to volunteer and do service work, and I don't do mudslinging, so I just look at what it is I can contribute to the people that I'd be representing. And so I thought, well, I can, I can contribute, so let's try again. I'm in a different district than I ran before, and I'm going to be retiring at the end of the year.
And tell us what you do for a living, if you would, please.
Right now I'm working with the Department of Agriculture over 20 years.
Okay.
And so this is a real agriculture county. I've probably been to every farm in this county with my job, so...
Not too many people can say that. That's very neat.
That's true, yeah.
Now, I see here when you ran for when you got the nomination here, we had the runoff, Joanne Pickering ran unopposed in Democratic nomination, but you got 663 votes. Mark Doty, who will be your opponent, the Republican side, he got 434 votes. So what are your thoughts about that, Joanne, that you got almost 200 more votes than...
I think that the voters are probably going away from the GOP at this point.
Okay.
They're not finding the representation, and especially if it could be a lot of independent voters that I probably got, and I think I can better represent a wider range of people. So
now, I've asked other people running. We had Fred Hall and Ronna Henke in here. Is 24 people too many people on the board, do you feel, to be an efficient board?
I don't think so. Oftentimes when you have fewer people, there's
less input.
The think tank is smaller. If you have a larger group of people, you've got more ideas coming in. You have all the burden of any workload isn't all on one person or two people. You can spread the workload out and get a lot of input from different people.
Okay. Now, we've met several candidates running for office here in the DeKalb County Board, and most of them have a lot of experience campaigning, and they don't have a big game plan. Or do you have a game plan in terms of a lot of them are going to wait till we closer to the election in terms of do you want to have a website, or how do you want to let people know who Joanne Pickering is?
I've already started, actually. I am going to be targeting, I can't canvass because, I'm handicapped. I can't go door to door. But I have a list of all the independent voters in my district. I plan on calling each of them personally, and I'm going to send out some postcards because I'm also a precinct committee person, to all the people in my precinct.
And how will you approach them, Joanne? When I turn them off, I go, oh, here comes a politician, and I don't want to talk to her.
I'm just going to be, I'm not going to give my whole history because people just don't have time for that. I'm keeping small bullet points. Look, I work for the Department of Agriculture, which would represent a good majority of the people in the county. I'm a former Navy veteran.
Oh, so thank you for your service.
You're welcome. And so, I know how to serve my country. And so I can bring a lot to the table with that. So,
Fred Hall, who's running in District 1, had his campaign, I served my country, now I'm ready to serve my county. So that was very creative of Fred.
So it's just kind of, I know DeKalb County, it's like DeKalb County has the most individual swine facilities in the entire state.
Is that right?
Yeah, so over Crego Road, they call it Swine Alley. And it's, so it's like, I think having someone with the Department of Agriculture would be good for the area. Also, one of the main reasons that I really wanted to get active is I wanted to stop any further AI facilities, data centers in our county.
Oh, well, we're going to touch on that. I want to, when you mentioned the hogs, I worked at a radio station out in Ogallala, Nebraska, and I had to do sales as well, and I had to go sell to a hog farmer, and he said, well, if you come, and he, basically sawed the hog in half and had it hanging there in the garage. He goes, you can get through that, I'll buy it at. He bought an ad for me, too. I don't know if everyone was the same after that. But that's great you have the rural road. So let's remind people, DeKalb County Board District 3, now this is AI, so we have to make sure this is correct, encompasses a large portion of Sycamore Township, generally situated south of Peace Road and north of Illinois 64. The district borders District 2 on the north and District 4 on the south, District 5 on the east. The district primary consists of Sycamore Township precincts and a small portion of Cortland Township, is that right? Basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, there's a lot of suburbs there, but, it's, I think, in my perspective, when I'm on the county board, I'm representing the whole county.
Okay,
And
you don't think of
so-
it in terms of sections like that?
I don't think of
Okay.
it as sections because that's, we want for everybody that lives in the county to do well. So, I represent these people, and I just think because it's my district, I'm going to be looking at how to prevent higher county taxes and for the people in my individual area, but overall how to benefit everybody that lives in the county.
Okay. Now, I Googled 3 biggest issues concerning DeKalb County, DeKalb County Rehab and Nursing Center, commercial solar farm zoning and land use, and public safety and youth services. But you touched, well, it goes back to the solar farm and the land use when you mentioned the data center, because, we've had Mayor Barnes here a couple times, and I didn't call him on the carpet, but the last time we did an interview, I said, I was a little disappointed because I was I watched a city council meeting on YouTube, and he let all the people spoke for 2.5 hours. Then they had the vote, and then they waived the second vote, and they just kind of ran it through there. And I was Amy Dowell was there, and former head of the DeKalb Park District, and she said, could we delay the vote, until next city council meeting so we can gather some more information? And they kind of ran it through there. And I was disappointed to hear that, especially with Joliet, they were battling whether to put the data center in. Aurora and Belvedere, I believe, too, also are contemplating whether or not to put a data center in. What were your thoughts about that when that happened?
I'm really disappointed. I think, and I'm seeing stuff in Washington where they're looking to just put a hold on AI to begin with. It's bad for our water. It's bad for our power. It's going to jack up our power prices. It's going to Sycamore has a problem with its water quality to begin with, but we're going to be contributing to that with those. And there's no cost to them to destroy our water and suck up all of our energy. Mm. And so if they're going to ship this AI data center through really quick without voting, maybe on the board, I can find a way to tax the heck out of them that for every gallon of water they use, they have to increase their taxes on for every gallon more, to increase the tax on their power for every megawatts that they use.
Now, to play the devil's advocate, the mayor said that they've checked all the checks, not only from the city, but from the state. And he said the state of Illinois has a lot of regulations concerning this. Now, we already have a Meta data center that's been involved, I think, for 2 years, almost 3 years. It has contributed a lot of money to the city, a lot of money to the school systems. I mean, it's hard to argue the financial bottom line when you look at that.
Well, you can always replace an AI center, but you can't replace drinking water. We can't live without drinking water. We can live without AI.
But now, Mayor Barnes made a point that when school was in session here at NIU, and of course now we're talking about DeKalb as opposed to Sycamore, that they use almost as much water or more water than there is a lot. They're allowed 500,000 gallons a day.
Well,
the data center.
It wouldn't be just the quantity because the NIU isn't running it through corrosives. They're not adding corrosives to that water. Water use, I would exclude like park districts, schools, that type of thing, the water park for the park district, those types of things. But any business that we would look at what is the quantity of water that they're using. And then I would try to see if maybe we can look at having them set up pay money to our water plant service to set up a way to eliminate those corrosives that they're adding to our water. So if they want to be here and use all our water, then they should invest the money to improve our water treatment plants to make our water potable again.
Well, you sound like you're ready to hit the ground running then.
Well, I used to be a water plant operator prior to, so I do have an understanding of, what goes into the water treatment process.
But I say that, Joanne, because a lot of people, when they get in the office, especially the first time in the office, they say, well, I want to get my feet wet, and kind of see how the lay of the land and everything do. But you sound like you're ready to jump right in at this point.
I think I bring some experience to the board and maybe some new ideas.
Now, let's talk about solar farms. Obviously, a big issue here. And, I've been living in DeKalb County for 25 years, and I've come to appreciate the beautiful land, the wonderful land that we have for the growing, and to see it covered up like this. Now, you would probably know this number. I still understand that it's like 90% of DeKalb County is still farmland. Is that about roughly right?
It's like I said, it's the number one in swine facilities in the state.
Yeah.
But as far as solar farms go, I think you hear people like, well, farmers don't want this and yada yada. But if you drive across the state, you see solar panels at every farm now.
Yeah.
And they're using the solar power for their, elevators and for, because buying.
So you see the logic of the farmers having their own solar farm.
And there's acres. Most of the solar farms I see aren't very big. Mm. And, we can afford to have small ones here and there. But there's acreage in the state where they're paid not to grow anything. So why not put a solar farm there?
Okay. So you don't feel it's hurting the land at all? It's when I talk to
with oil prices going up, we have to find some alternative. Yeah. And why not start this process instead of putting it off? Let's start, putting these solar farms in there. I've seen ideas to put solar panels over parking lots.
Well, that's the logical place to put
that
them.
Over the top of
where
Lowe's and Walmart is. And it covers it from bad weather, and then you're getting the sun. I mean, there's a lot of ideas to do it, but the land, to say that it's taking up all the land, that's not really happening.
Fred Hall, I don't mean to keep bringing Fred up, but he was talking about when Jimmy Carter was in the White House in 1976, he put solar panels on the White House, and of course Reagan, when he took office in 80, immediately took them down there. But Fred also proposed having goats with the solar farm and eating the grass underneath the solar panels. But as far as you know about land, will the land be hurt at all? Is it not getting the sunshine, Joanne, or how is that working in terms when the panels are up?
If you need goats to cut the grass, it's certainly not harming anything to grow.
Am I understanding you could have native plants and things underneath the solar?
Well, certainly, because that would be land that you're no longer, using. You're not having to put fertilizers and pesticides onto it, so the land is, getting a chance to breathe and if at some point that you could always move that solar farm to a different area.
Okay.
And then you could start planting in that area. I think it would give the land a time to take a break.
So here, the background that I was given here, the county board frequently reviews and votes on large special use permits for commercial solar projects, says there's a recent 48-acre solar farm approved by the spanning DeKalb and Mayfield Township. So what's enough, though, Joanne? When do we say that's enough solar farms?
Well, I think that we can't just keep thinking solar farms are the answer. I think we should implement something to start, like every year have a goal of, because I know that they did this in Germany. They were going to put, solar panels on 3,000 buildings, 3,000 homes, and each year keep adding more solar. And I think if we can start putting it on top of businesses and on top of and improving our power grid to accept more solar, then we can keep adding and adding. We don't have to have massive solar farms, but we can have dotted solar farms throughout the area that will give us, more power.
Now, one of the proposals I saw with the data center was them actually having their own source of power, whether it be solar, however they would be.
I think that they should be off grid from us, and they should have generate their own power, whether it through wind or solar, that they have to have that. And they should maybe perhaps even have their own, water purification before it leaves the plant, before it leaves the data center, to have that potable water before it gets back into so it doesn't poison our water table, because that's going to go through the ground into our water table. And we have to think about the long term, not the short term.
All right, very good. Good answer. They were talking to Joanne Pickering, who's running for DeKalb County seat in District Number 3. Now, a big issue, of course, is the DeKalb County Rehab and Nursing Center. And I was telling you, when I was at the radio station, we went out there when they added on the Rehab Center, and I was of the thought, let's get rid of this building. It's been operated at a loss for years. But then you meet the people that work there, and then more importantly, the people that stay there. And you realize the passion that people have for that place. And tell us about the DeKalb County Rehab Nursing Center. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that we should keep it, improve it, invest more money into it, because so many senior services are being closed, shut down, being made unavailable, and we have an aging population and that has nowhere to go and can't afford to go. And we need to be able to take care of our seniors. We need to provide for them. And
Now, it was proposed, there was a proposed buyer, right? And then the buyer backed out, and I guess there's a lawsuit involving with that. But a lot of people panicked when it was going to be sold to a private entity like that, because a lot of times you see that the private people just try to make as much money as they possibly can and less
Correct.
concern for the people staying there. But how do you defend the fact that it's been operating at a loss? I mean, that's really hard to defend that.
well, I think with government, the government isn't for profit. It's for the people.
Oh, good line.
And so we're not here to make money off of it. We're here to provide a service for people. I would rather have my money go towards helping the aging and seniors than, going to pay for another golf course someplace, a private golf course with memberships. So
Okay, that's a great answer. That's really interesting, because we'll see how that one plays out. Because again, I just to meet the passion of the people that work there was just amazing.
yeah, I heard
really,
they're great people there.
yeah, really,
Yeah.
really great to see. Now you have a new boss, Ruth Kidzor, and we haven't learned a lot. We're going to have her on a podcast here in the coming up. But do you know about her, or will you wait until you see if you get on the board to find out more about her?
I'll wait to see. I
Okay.
always like to, meet people face to face, and I tend to be a good read of people, and so I like to meet them first, and not hear all the stuff, but
Right. Now, something I've learned, again, following the county board now, that we guys will also be on committees, various committees. Now, for instance, I have Rokisha Crawford here, and she's on the Executive Committee, the Forest Preserve Committee, and Health and Human Services Committee. Now, do you have a choice, Joanne, do you know, in terms of if you do get elected? Or is it just random drawings, or how do you get on those committees? And what one would you like to be on?
I am not certain about those, but and I'm not sure all the committees that are available, but I'm going to try to see if I can fit into one of the committees that I have some experience in,
Yes.
like with water or with farming or with, one of those areas.
Yeah, because I don't think any of us realize how vast the DeKalb County government is. I'll tell you what those
And that's why you need at least 24 people.
Right, well,
'cause-
that really backs it up, because you got the Executive Committee, the Finance Administration Committee, Faculties and Technology, Forest Preserve Operations, Health and Human Services, Highway, Law and Justice, and Planning and Zoning Development. And that doesn't include the ad hoc committees, and then also there's various commissions as well. So,
Correct.
I can
And
see
that's
why.
why I think, well, I'll be retired then, so. I could-
now, how do you do your research in terms of, I was overwhelmed by the DeKalb County website because there's just so much information there, but how do you narrow down what you learn about, or what do you want to study, Joanne? What do you want to know most about in terms of once you're on the county board? Of course, you know a lot already about the land and the...
Yeah, I think I'd like to see I think the drinking water is an issue. And I think I'd like to see if, adding a tax to the Meta Center or the big, because they're not going to go anywhere, and to see if we can use earmarks, the county taxes, towards setting up a system that will improve our drinking water.
Okay, so have a separate tax for that.
Have a separate tax for that, earmark that's for our drinking water. And so, if we're going to tax the water, how many gallons of water, if somebody's using an excessive amount, then, and I would think just with the Meta Center, because the AI centers they do add corrosives to the water, it does damage the water, then to tax them for that so we can cover the cost of cleaning it up. So unless we can have them clean it up before it even leaves their property.
Okay, and these are all things that can be done before they break ground, right?
Correct.
Now,
Yes.
another story relating to what we were talking about, the rehab center, developers who want to invest in $10.7 million into the former Sycamore Kindred Hospital building. I don't know if you know about this, Joanne. Do you know anything about this?
No, but if I were looking into Health and Human Services, if they want to privatize it, I would look to see, and it may steer people away, but to cap the profit, so to speak, that they can't gouge patients, they can't gouge for services.
Oh, really?
That it's got to be affordable if they're going to contribute to the community. we want them to be able to provide services that are affordable.
Now, would the board be involved with this? I should give a little more information.
I-
Sycamore Mayor Steve Brazier seeking rally support for a proposed $11 million healthcare development that would modernize the former Sycamore Kindred Hospital building after the property's former owner signaled opposition to the faculty's revival. I don't know why the former owners are against that, but it's such a beautiful facility, and like you said, we have an aging population, so it really stands to reason. They've a certificate of needs application to open a 52-bed long-term acute care facility called the Sycamore Specialty Hospital at 225 Edwards Street. So the creation of numerous permanent jobs, including clinical, administrative, and support positions.
And I would look in to see, because Governor Pritzker has said that we're going to be having a universal health care system in 2027, and I would like to see if there are any funds earmarked for senior facilities, that if maybe there's funds available to that, since it's now going to be a universal health care, that we can't get more money for the services that facility provides.
Now, would the county be involved with this? Because I see the city may be giving them some kind of tax incentives. And would the county be able to do that as well to get another medical building in Sycamore? As far as you know.
Well, we look at zoning and, if we can find ways to zone it to where we can get a medical facility, if that's something we can get state funds for, then, I'm looking for ways of getting tax dollars that is.
And before the break, we're talking to Joanne Pickering, who's running for DeKalb District 3 in the DeKalb County Board. We were talking about various issues, land use as well. And you were just talking about this. Here's another story pertaining to Sycamore. A potential $6.5 million development could be coming to Sycamore. Other manufacturers with 60 jobs already eyeing the space in Sycamore. Now, we know how well DeKalb's doing in terms of development there. We got Nestle's and Amazon, and community leaders on Wednesday announced a potential multi-million-dollar manufacturing development, codenamed Project Balsam, could be coming to Sycamore. Do you know anything about this, Joanne? In terms of?
I don't.
Okay, so it would be a $6.5 million capital investment in the Sycamore manufacturing sector that would create about 20 jobs, according to the DeKalb County Economic Division. It isn't guaranteed to happen in Sycamore, however. The Project Balsam has a request for information. So they're also doing it for 3 other places as well. But you just really hit upon it right there, because Marvin Barnes, the alderman from Sycamore, was here talking about the burden that's on the Sycamore taxpayers because there's so little manufacturing, right? So this would be a huge thing to have a big.
Yeah, let's take that with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Because like when the Meta Center was, people like, oh, all these jobs, and it's like they imported their labor from Texas and non-union labor from across the country, and they didn't use local labor. And so that didn't benefit us. And with some of these manufacturers, there may be construction, but are they importing their labor? And then there's only 20 jobs available. So is that worth giving them millions in a tax incentive to provide 20 jobs?
Uh-huh.
So, we want to, what's the offset? And, if they're going to have more traffic, they're going to be damaging our roads more, and so we want to look at how we can generate enough funds, we can generate jobs, and then we can not raise property taxes.
Now, the school board spoke there as well, and the new president of the school board is going to be our guest here on the podcast. With the burden of 63% of the tax dollars in Sycamore goes to the schools, right? So, I mean, that's very important that they get a little relief from that.
Yep.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
And then also in February, Sycamore City Council approved a tax incentive for a potential Olive Garden. I don't know, people are crazy about Olive Gardens around here. I don't know what it is about that. But God forbid we let this one slip away.
Oh, my goodness. Well, there's a lot of empty business space in Sycamore, DeKalb on that Route 23, and it's empty.
Yeah.
So if Olive Garden wanted to come in, they could come in. So what's keeping them from that? Are the landlords charging too much? Are they, if they're charging too much, I mean, we don't want to give the huge tax incentive because that's really just benefiting the landlord. It's not benefiting us.
Right.
So, we need to look at, how are we going to fill up those empty spaces already? I mean, people would love to have an Olive Garden. That's great. But I don't think the county board is going to be able to make that decision for them.
Now, in that development, that area there where Peace Road and 64 all come together there where the Jewel is, and they're talking about I believe a new housing development there. Now, does the county have any say in that in terms of how many houses or what type of houses would be built there?
Well, I believe the board does, calculate the zoning. So you can zone it for agriculture, you can zone it for business. You
Okay.
can vote it. So it depends upon, what it's being zoned for. And I believe the county board, has a say in what gets built.
Now, I asked Ms. Hinkie and Fred Hall about there was a story, I don't have my notes with me, but it was about abuse of animals. There was, I believe it was in Hinckley where they were having some kind of a rodeo type of thing, and they were doing things to the horses in a bad way, and it was discovered. And I don't know, you sound like you're a person very close to the land and animals as well. And what are your thoughts about the county board regulating things like that in terms of
Well, I don't think anyone wants to see abusive animals in our county or in our state or in our country. I mean, we've banned, testing products on animals.
But are we not tough enough? I mean, people that grow up with animals, we can go tackle that calf. It's not going to hurt the calf any. And
Well, I don't think it's necessarily tackling the calf. I think they're doing other things that are causing harm.
Right.
So I think that, they can still have a rodeo without, torturing the animal. It's not like in Spain where they stab spears in them
Yes.
and kill the bull. It's but I think that animal laws should be protections for them because it's just a sad thing when animals can't speak for themselves.
It is. Now, I didn't know that we had Sheriff Andy Sullivan here, and I didn't realize that Sheriff Andy Sullivan reports to the DeKalb County Board once a month. And what about with safety? Now, do you have any concerns about safety in the area in terms of?
I haven't. I had to move into DeKalb County for my job because it's central to my territory. And I've lived here for over 20 years.
Okay.
And I've never felt unsafe. So I think growing up in Sycamore, it's here working. It's just been, I love it. I have a booth at the Pumpkin Fest. And I think the university is great.
Now, we're recording this a few days after Memorial Day. And again, thank you for your service. Tell us about your time in the Navy. Why did you go in the Navy?
I was going to go into medical school and be an anesthesiologist, and I thought I wanted to get some hands-on medicine, so I joined the Navy in medicine. I worked in preventive medicine, emergency room medicine, to see if that's before I committed the time and money to medical school. And I found out that medicine it's just treat and street. We're not curing anything. So I went into
What a treat and street. I like that.
treat and street, as we
never heard
call
that.
it. And I went into DNA, RNA testing because I thought, well, that we can be looking for cures. But that job, you're always in the dungeon. And so I thought, I want to work outdoors. So working
Wow,
for the
so you
Department-
went almost the
I'm
opposite of that.
outdoors every day, and I love it. So
And tell us what you do. What did that consist of? So you work with farmers a lot.
I prevent pesticides from getting into the drinking water in the city sewers.
Okay.
So I inspect containment for manure, fertilizer, and pesticides, like the FS's, lawn care facilities, golf courses, livestock facilities, new construction, pre, during, and post-construction before they put the animals in. And then I get several federal US EPA inspections to do each year for pesticide manufacturers.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a wide range of, and I cover the whole northeastern section of Illinois.
Many of us who grew up in the 60s and 70s can remember just how bad things got. I remember, I'm trying to remember what river in the city where you could walk across the river. But we never knew about the pesticides coming in from the farm fields. And it was
Right.
fascinating to learn about that because you see how it's just inevitable that the water finds its own level, right? And it's going to inevitably get into our drinking water.
Through the rivers and streams and through the water tables, it works its way through. And I know there was some concerns about the hormones from the from the cattle in the drinking water.
What about fluoride in the water? I was talking about that the other day because I guess they experimented with taking it out and the cavities just went through the roof.
Yeah, I grew up in Hawaii where there's no fluoride in the
really?
water.
Okay.
And so, a lot of kids, had a lot of cavities. So it's true. But
Not too many people living in DeKalb and Sycamore have told me that they grew up in Hawaii and are still here. And they're here because there's an adage here where you dip your toe in the Kishwaukee River, you come back. But what about Hawaii? Tell us about your time living in Hawaii. What was that like?
Well, it was a wonderful place to grow up, and but the cost of living is lower here. You find a lot of people from Hawaii, especially end up on the West Coast, and then they can fly home anytime because it's just the cost of living is too high in Hawaii these days.
Did you have that island thing? I heard that thing. You live on an island, and ultimately you just have to get off because.
Well, it's kind of funny because when the tourists would come to Hawaii, they would say, "Well, back on in the U.S." and we're like, and we always refer to it as the mainland.
Okay.
And they always got a kick out of us having a interstate highway in Hawaii. We've got the Highway 1, 2, and 3. They're interstate highways just so we could get federal funds for them. But it's not like we're going to another state.
Well, it's fascinating to learn about history because I know Hawaii, they weren't really that thrilled with becoming the 50th state. Or what were they, 49th or 50th?
They weren't. It was a forced occupation.
Yeah.
And
it was kind of sad to read about that.
It is. And they, it's just, the colonization of, Palau and.
But they had a series of monarchies with the islands, right? And then there was one lady who was like considered almost a queen, if you would.
Well, they did. They had King Kamehameha.
Okay,
and they had, and they did have other, the Queen Liliuokalani and Queen Emma, and they did have the royalty of the islands. And the last queen, she was pretty much imprisoned in the palace there, and forced to, sign Hawaii over. And
kind of a sad chapter of our history. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And so, now a lot of Native Hawaiians are fighting for their sovereignty. I'm Native American from the Yankton Reservation in South Dakota.
Okay.
And so it's like I can, understand what other Native nations are going through.
My wife owns a jewelry store. I think you know her, Becky Beck, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your turquoise jewelry that you're wearing. That's beautiful. Now, is that native jewelry? Is that native?
Some of these pieces, this is a Native artist. But yeah, I love turquoise, and it's just.
And how do you find yourself in Sycamore after living in Hawaii?
I moved out here after the Navy because I had some family here, and I finished up my degree at the North Shore up at Chicago Medical School, Finch University, and then I just stayed here working, and And then I tell everyone when it snows, I'm like, it's snowing, you guys. They're like, oh, you brat, you get to see snow. But I don't tell them it's so cold, it's painful, and it hurts.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. It's amazing that when you get to know people. I used to do little 10, 15-minute interviews on the radio, and you really don't get to know people at all. Like, I never would have known you in the Navy, that you grew up in Hawaii. It's amazing what you've done. And, my wife always says a thing about an elevator speech. If you had to give a little elevator speech and say, hi, I'm Joanne Pickering. I'm running for DeKalb County District 3. Here's why you should vote for me. What would you say to them, Joanne?
I would say I've served my country in the Navy during the first Iraq War. I've spent the last 20 years working for the Department of Agriculture, and I believe I have a lot to bring to this county and to the people that live here.
Let's leave it at that. Her name is Joanne Pickering. Again, now, would you be willing to debate Mark Doty? If we can set that up, would that be something you want to do? Your Republican candidate? Would that be you don't have to go on the record now, but perhaps?
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
All right, very good. Well, again, it's a pleasure to get to know you. Joanne Pickering has been our guest here. Again, don't forget the vote here coming up in November. And if you want to learn more about Joanne, we'll, again, hopefully have a debate coming up maybe sometime in September. And that's TD Ryan Unleashed, podcast number 62.